Welcome, everybody, to the Rally Cry podcast. It is your host, Angel, and I'm so glad that you are here. You're listening. If you're driving, if you're cleaning, whatever it is, you're here because you want to learn, you want to grow, and you just want to just be better, right? And I think that's the whole point of it. I am so honored to say that we have sold nearly 100 of the Enough Said card game. If you haven't got your Enough Said card game, I only got 4 left, and I was thinking, right, to potentially give an incentive to the last person that buys it. And don't worry, there's going to be more. But I'm just really honored that you guys actually are having the experience and, you know, playing the game with your friends and your family and getting something out of it, because it shows that communication is everything. And one thing I am also excited about is having someone on the podcast. We have a guest today, and I was just telling her how honored I am. And of course, if you guys don't know, I always like to have a formal introduction anytime when someone comes on. So here's the introduction. Ready? Dr. Khadija, graduating with her doctorate from UMass Amherst, is a psychiatric nurse practitioner and is board certified. Ladies and gentlemen, it cannot get realer than this. She's certified, stamped, okay? And her specialty is helping people manage their mental health needs on managing anxiety, depression, mood disorders, and many more. Khadija has been awarded for being an emerging leader of color for her compassionate caregiving. And she also has her own practice called Intuit Behavioral Health Services. Khadija, how are you doing today?
I am doing very well. I can't complain.
Awesome.
I can't complain. It's a new day.
Yes. Yeah. It's definitely a new day. We're getting into winter, but then it feels like it's summer.
Yeah, it's confusing, like a lot of things are this season.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I remember when, it's crazy, we met the first time over at New Year Better Us.
Yep.
Shout out to Darius.
Yep. And it's coming back around again.
Yes,
Absolutely.
it is. Definitely going to be there. Yep. You're gonna be, yep.
Absolutely.
Okay, bet. And then the second time, I felt like I didn't meet you, but then at the same time, I was like, wait, she's familiar.
Yeah.
And then we started talking. So it was when it was over at Lorenzi.
Correct.
And you was doing the presentation about your whole story, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of want to be able to give you the chance to talk about that story here, because I think your story is very inspiring. So I want to start by asking you, what was a pivotal moment in your life that led you to where you are today?
Oh, yeah. So, well, let me just back up. So, okay, again, my name is Dr. Tuit. I've been working in nursing for over 20 years. And I think for me, I have always wanted to be a nurse. So that's always been a part of me, is community, taking care of people, healing. But I was also a product of my environment. And so was really into the streets young, got into legal trouble by the time I was 19, actually got into federal agent trouble. So I didn't go big, I didn't go small, I went big as I usually do, you know, and really had to face some legal consequences and was actually kicked out of nursing school. So I think the biggest change for me with wanting to work in behavioral health was understanding that there was a lack of understanding. A lack of understanding about Black health, a lack of understanding about trauma, a lack of understanding about criminality in children, because children don't just become criminals because there's usually some trauma associated somewhere. But unfortunately, the legal system does not do a very good job of recognizing it. So despite getting kicked out of school, out of nursing school, I did go back. I got my, degree as an occupational therapy assistant, waiting for the statute of limitations to run out, and then went back to school for my LPN at Holyoke Community College, and then did my associate's degree through Excelsior, and then completed my bachelor's at Elms, and then my doctorate at UMass. And for me, it was very important because for every degree I got, I was declined licensure by the board because I have been convicted of a felony. I am a felon,
right.
Ex-felon. And so it was really important for me to make sure that I broke those barriers, because in the hood is where the true gems lie. Because if you can survive your environment and all the negativity that is thrown at you, you deserve an optimal placement at somebody's table. Okay? And so it was really important for me to let other people know that the things that have been used against you are actually your skills and your talents, and you need to learn how to rechannel the energy. And so it's really important. Like the degree Getting the doctorate degree wasn't for me. Getting the doctorate degree was for the other people who thought I didn't belong at the table. And so it quickly stopped you can't ask me if I belong here. Okay?
Right.
So from the block to the boardroom, I will be there as long as it's going to make change better in the community that I truly do serve.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that. And mind you, I think what happens is that when it comes to adversity, we don't know what to do, right? We get depressed, we get anxious, right? We think we're not enough. What was that thing that led you to keep going, right? Like, people keep telling you no, but you kept telling yourself yes. And even from you even expressing it right here, it just sounds like you have so much confidence in what you do. In that moment when, everything was knocking you down, was there something specific that kept you going?
I want to say I have very strong roots. My parents raised a beast. I'm going to say that right now. My father worked construction for the union, but I was raised Muslim. So we had a very big sense of community and belonging, right? Strong sense of self. And my mother was an educator. And so she would teach people no matter where she was, no matter what the environment. So we could be at the airport, we could be in the bathroom, we could be anywhere. And she just had such a magnetic energy, but she took that opportunity to teach and to educate, whether it was on Islam, whether it was on community, whether it was on women's health, whether it was on motherhood, nursing, I don't care what it was. She was the epitome of an educator. And I think that combination of knowing who you are, having a strong sense of self, especially as a Black individual. So we were raised knowing that the world is going to portray you one day. We were told it's the tell-lie vision, not the tell-love vision, because the portrayal of you is a lie. And you have to know who you are and stand firm in that truth. We weren't allowed to pledge allegiance to the flag because there is no justice for all. And so that statement was profound in my family. And until there is justice for all, I do not stand with that, because we still have large disparities that are life-threatening in this country, right? Yeah. And so having that sense of self unapologetically is the energy that I kind of need to be contagious for my people, because we're dope like that.
Yeah.
There's...
You are pretty dope.
Most of us are.
Yes.
If we stepped into our true energy unapologetically.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people that are listening right now, I think one of the struggles nowadays, especially, is that people don't know how to find themselves, right? They don't know how to tap into that energy. Some people don't believe in energy. Yeah. So what would you think is the first step that someone can do to find themselves?
Right. So if you're questioning, if you just have the question, that's enough to start your journey, right? I am a big believer, of course, in behavioral health and mental health treatment for a multitude of reasons. Most people think they need therapy because they're not well. And that's not true. You need therapy because it helps you to understand yourself more. It helps you to delve into the pieces that you might not be thinking. And for me, as a psychiatric medication provider, it's very important for me to do the walk with people because in our culture, half the time, we don't even believe in taking medication, right? We automatically say, that's not for us. I'm not doing it, But science is a beautiful thing, and healing is a beautiful thing. And so we have to be comfortable with whatever it takes to heal, because just like trauma destroys the DNA, healing can help repair it. And so we don't need to keep focusing on the trauma. We need to focus on the ways to get you healed from your trauma, right? And so for me, anybody who sits in my chair and meets with me, we're going to take a walk back. I need to know about you, your childhood, your community, your people, how you were raised, your support system, what you like, what you don't like. We do all of this before we have any conversation about medication. As a matter of fact, we don't even deal with medication on the first visit, because we need to get to learn each other, right? And I'm not in the streets no more, so I'm not a drug dealer. I need to make sure that your medication is appropriately prescribed for appropriate needs, right?
Yes.
But it is a true statement that, we all deserve to have that person. We deserve to have that space where we can talk about the things that we think about at night before we go to bed, because you can't turn your brain off. Because let's face it, you can't run from yourself, right? So I think it's critically important that we find a mentor, a community, a therapist, the right therapist, the correct therapist, okay, which is not always easy to do. But I think you need to challenge your circle. So I think people need to take a strong look at the people that are around them and understand if they're feeding their nervous system and their soul in a healthy way or in an unhealthy way. And if it's unhealthy, they need to make rapid moves to clean up their house.
Right. And I think you said the D word, deserve. Right? Deserve. I think that's the biggest thing you can tell yourself, right? When you say, I deserve to be loved, I am capable of loving, and that love is all around me. I think when it comes to having energy and having this belief and curing yourself, right, from this trauma, is first saying it out loud, first having that question, because as you know, a great leader is someone that asks the right questions, not find the right answers. You find the right answer when you ask the right question. And I think it's something that I even done, right? I think in a moment of my life, came out a long-term relationship. As many times I said on this podcast, you know, it's something that's found myself, right? It's what allowed me to have this space, right? To be in a position where I can learn from someone like you and just keep getting better, because that's what mental health is about, right? It's mental literacy, right? It's really understanding the way that the body works and how other people's bodies work, and there's body language and all these other things. And it goes back to how you're saying, like, when you're finding a mentor, when you're finding a therapist, is looking out for those cues, right? Someone's body language, someone's language, right? What they listen to, how they respond towards things says a lot about that person. So I don't mind doing a role play. I know you mentioned about like taking a step back when you are with clients and asking them some questions. So let's say if it was me, or, you know, you can say it out loud, what would be that first question that you'll be asking someone, or someone that can ask themselves for the ones that are listening?
Oh, my first question that I always ask people is, what brings you here to see me? What prompted you to actually make this appointment? Right. Because people have these thoughts all along, but something usually happens where enough is enough, or I'm so like, whatever is happening, I want change and I want better. So my first question is, I'm curious.
Yeah. I think there's a lot that people could say. So I'll say I just feel like I've been very anxious, and I'm depressed, and I don't feel like I don't want to do anything, and I just don't feel enough.
Right. So first, I'm going to congratulate you for being here. All right, because this is only for the brave. Mental health treatment is only for the brave. Like, you're going to keep living your life until you're brave enough to want to do something different, right? So the first thing is commending you for even coming to the appointment. Number one, because it's hard, and I want you to come back. All right. And so number two is we're going to talk about, after I find out your reason, now again, I'm going to go back in your history, because I want to know about you, your lifestyle, what your family is, what your support system is, how you eat, how you drink, how you deal with your own stressors, what you do positively, you know, that makes your life richer, you know, what you would love to do, but you haven't had the courage to do. And then through those stories and through that, we're going to figure out what your barriers have been, right? Because I'm going to know, is it your family stress? Is it your diet? Is it a chemical imbalance? Is it poor coping skills? Is it all of the above? You know, and a lot of us don't know we carry our ancestors with us, good, bad, and ugly. And so sometimes we have a way of moving and doing things, and we don't even know why we're doing it, right? Jamaican culture, for instance, gonna talk about myself. Why people think you're supposed to work 3 jobs, do all this stuff, and like, if you don't, it's a sign like you're being lazy or weak, right? I do not subscribe. I am not doing that. That is exhausting. Okay?
Yeah.
And so certain things I had to learn to just let go, because even though they were cultural nuances, they weren't appropriate for me in my life. Like New Year's, you know, everybody's washing all the clothes in the house, buying the black eyed peas, doing all of these. I'm not doing none of that. All right. I live on a rolling calendar year. I'm not stressing myself out. Clothes are going to be dirty the next day. And I've learned to live in the moment. So I'm not going to do all of the things that are going to make me unhappy. I'm going to reverse that and focus on the pieces that do, and that's where I'm going to pour my energy into.
Yeah. Man, I love it. I love it. And everything that you say is something that I've been practicing myself, right? Especially the living in the moment. Yeah. Right?
It's really hard.
I think when you try to live in the moment, you have to talk to yourself a lot and be like, all right, let me focus on this. Let me focus on, and that's what it is. It's focus, right? Yeah. It's being able to know that you're in a segment right now, and you have to pay attention to that, cater to that segment, right? And I might have said it plenty of times on here, but a segment is where, like, this is a segment now, right? If someone's calling, that's another segment coming in. Either I enter that segment or I stay in the segment that is between us right here.
Right.
Someone walks into the door, that's another segment.
Right.
So I think understanding segments in a day is what allows you to prioritize on what's important to you.
Correct.
So is there anything that you tell yourself when you're trying to live in the moment, or is there certain practices that you do?
Yeah. So the first thing is that you always have to be kind to yourself, and you have to understand, we have to understand that we don't live in a society that fosters good mental health. Okay? So a lot of times I tell people it's not your fault. Society sucks in this way that you're expected to work 40 plus hours, 5 days a week. They tell you to have work-life balance, but you only got 2 days to catch up on all your chores, all your housework, visit people, do the thing that they call self-care, and be back with a smile on your face for Monday morning. That is impossible. And until we start advocating for more leisure, it doesn't make us lazy. It makes us human, right? And so we need equal balance of rest, equal balance of work, and equal balance of pleasure, and this is why I would love a society where, all of our hobbies, like for this is your love, this is your passion. In a world that really fosters humanity, you would work in whatever field you do, even if it's not this, but the thing that you love, we would have to make sure that people are allotted a certain amount of time to be a part of that community. Whether you love art, whether you love music, whether you love reading, you should be able to leave, go do your thing that you love to do, and then by the time you get back home to your family, you're refreshed. You feel good about being there. You can be present because you've done all of the things that you needed to do.
Right.
Right? But our society, unfortunately, isn't set up that way. So that's why being mindful is critical, right? When you dedicate your time to do something, be there to do it, but also be okay saying no.
Right.
Like, we feel guilty about saying no. I also do not do that anymore. I'm quick to tell you that I have another appointment, another engagement. Half the time that appointment is with myself. Okay? So I'm going to tell you no first, or let me see, because I have to check in where my mentality is at the point. Am I in a good space to give to others, or do I need to hone in a little bit more for myself? Right? And that's a real skill. Because when you're on the hamster cycle, it is very easy to keep going, and not putting your head up to take that pause. And that pause is critical.
Yeah. And that goes back to the prioritization, right?
Right.
You have to, prioritization is literally prior. I have to do this before I can do this, right? Yeah. And being mindful on like, oh, well, if I'm going to do this, I need to be able to take a step back and just kind of reevaluate myself, make sure that I have enough energy, and asking how much energy is this going to take with this person, with this thing, and be mindful of that.
Right.
How would you say someone can manage through the anxiety? I think sometimes when we think about anxiety, we just know anxiety as a feeling. So are you able to describe what is anxiety and what is anxiety? I think that's where we can start. Yeah.
So a lot of people, you're right. People don't even know how to express what anxiety is. Anxiety, I tell people, you know how you feel when you get on a roller coaster and you go down and there's that steep, okay, that's the feeling, but there's no roller coaster ride. It's just this feeling of dread, of uncertainty. It's very uncomfortable, right? You might feel it in your stomach. You might feel it in your body. Your heart might race. Your palms might sweat. Or you might just have it in your mind where you can't even be present because you're always thinking about how other people perceive you or what you're doing or how you're behaving. So anxiety can manifest, or it can show up as just irritable, like frustration, right? That's anxiety. Feeling overwhelmed, that induces that anxiety, like where you just don't even know where to start. That's the feeling, right?
Interesting.
So the first thing is to recognize it, right? But don't let it control you. And you got to learn some skills to bring that down, to make yourself, allow yourself to be present, right? Whether that's deep breathing, whether that's meditating, whether that's taking a few minutes before you go into an environment to do some positive self-dialogue, or for some people, it might mean medication. Because a lot of people struggle with that social anticipatory, before something is happening, dreadful feeling. And although they enjoy social interactions, it's very hard to start to even go to a social event. So a lot of times I tell people to look at therapy and medication like this. Whether it's anxiety, depression, trauma, mood disorder, whatever it is that you're going through, therapy is really good for teaching you how to navigate difficult situations. So if we look at it like swimming, therapy will teach you how to backstroke, how to swim underwater. You might need to be incognito, how to, backstroke. You might be able to float through life sometimes, right? Your medication is your life jacket. that is what you put on so that you're not panicking while you're learning the skills, because if you panic, you can't do any of it, right? And so sometimes medication just helps get you grounded just enough so that you can learn these other skills and strengthen them. And then we can start pulling back, once you've tightened up some of those things. But sometimes you need a combination, right?
Yep.
And that's the part that people need to be okay with. So I tell people this all the time. When your mood is dysregulated and you're all over the place, everybody's looking at you like, who child, they need to do something. I don't know what, they need some meds, they need some drugs, they need something, right? When you take your meds, nobody knows. It's just you and your medicine cabinet. But the rest of the world's like, oh my God, they're doing so good. What are you doing? I just love how well you're doing. So like, medicine is a very good thing and it's nobody's business.
Right.
But if we weren't so biased about it and we spoke more openly about it, we wouldn't suffer so much.
Right.
And human emotion and human behaviors can be taught at any age. So if you think a child can learn math and science, then they can learn to be kind. Okay? They can learn to recognize how to be a good peer, how to be a good friend. All right? And we've forgotten how important it is to teach just how to be a good human.
Right. That's exactly what it is, right?
To
get better, right? And that is in different paths, right?
Correct.
There was a thing that I saw and it was, if I say what's 1 + 9 is what?
10.
What's 5 + 5?
10.
And if I keep going on and on, there's different ways to get to 10, right?
100%.
So it's the same way to being successful, being more healed. There's so many ways to get to 10.
Right. And like when somebody will ask me, like, if somebody asks you or me, tell me what the secret, tell me what I have to do to get to where you are.
Take the first step.
No, yeah, and I'm going to say I can't give you a blueprint because I don't know what you have inside of you. My fight is innate, okay? And so you have to find out what flames your fire. So you could do a step-by-step booklet, but if you don't have that passion, then those steps don't have any value. You know what I mean? So you have to figure out what's flaming you on the inside and then get curious about how to create what you want, okay? Yes. So it's not necessarily looking for somebody like, show me how. It's more understanding who you are and learning about yourself, because that's how you're going to get there.
I love it. And I love it. You said curious.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing.
Curiosity.
If you're not curious, then
that's
you're
why
never
I'm a nerd. This is why I'm a nerd, because I'm so curious
look at all my books
about
here.
everything, like I want to know more.
Right.
Tell me more.
Yes. I think when it comes to therapy and mental health, it's always like seeing, it's a one shoe fits all in social media, and you see all these other things, right? Like for me, I went to a meditation retreat and I found that helped me.
Absolutely.
Right? And I actually was meditating before we hopped on this episode, and I was realizing, because that's where I be getting some epiphanies, or something just comes to me, and that's going back to energy. That's what?
Soul searching.
Soul searching. Hey, I've been finding a lot about my soul.
Mindfulness.
Yes. There was if you really slow down, meditate, right? It says I take. Right. Medicine I take. Right. So it's also like, that's the way that works for me. That's my medicine. Right. And at least going with medicine, I want to be able to talk about it, right? So when it comes to people that are on medications and stuff like that, right? I think what happens is that a lot of people are scared about side effects or all these other things that come with that.
Yeah.
If someone is to come to you about that concern, what is something that you tell them?
So one thing we do is we talk about medication openly. First of all, I have a huge problem with how providers do informed consent. And I don't think that we are informing people appropriately for them to actually consent. And so what I tell people is that you're not going to have to wonder about what it does, because we're going to talk about everything from the beginning. So if I'm introducing a medication, we're going to talk about FDA-approved uses, off-label uses, side effects. Some that might be like, I'm like, these are corny, they're going to go away, just buck up, because if you can get through this, you're going to be all right. Versus other ones that are more serious, and I want to really know, what's happening. So there's a huge educational component and options. I never tell someone, this is what I want you to take. I'll say, these are the things that I'm looking into. Write them down, because I want you to do some research. And honestly, I don't care if you ask Reddit, your mama, your daddy, your uncle, your grandpappy, TikTok, YouTube. I really don't care, because we don't do a good job at giving people information up front. So bring me all your horror stories. Bring me all your concerns. And yes, we're going to talk about real side effects that prevent people from getting treatment. Big ones that people are always concerned about are weight gain and sexual side effects. And those are also deal breakers for me, because a good sexual life is a good, healthy life. And so we're not trying to break anything.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, if your mental health is good, I can guarantee that those things might also be compromised, right? If you're not feeling well, you're probably not eating and taking good care of yourself, and your sexual health is probably not the best. And so these are all a part of treatment. None of these things are off topic, right? Because the more I know about a person, the more I can individualize care. And like I tell them, I don't do textbook, because no one is textbook. Textbook gives me a guide, right? You are my person. You are my individual. So what you tell me feeds to me what your treatment options are going to be, and that's what we're going to discuss. So the book might say that you need 20 milligrams of X, Y, and Z. But if you're telling me you feel fabulous on 10, we don't need to put more in your body, because 10 is your magic number.
Right.
I don't care what the book says at this point.
Yeah. It's the guide is the person, right?
Correct.
But the only way that you can be a guide is if you just be honest.
Right. And it's very hard to be honest if you're sitting in front of a provider and you feel the bias. So it might not even be in anything your provider is saying, but we as a people are very honed on energy. And if we feel like you're withholding information, or you've already got a bias or a judgment, then the fact of the matter is we're likely to bring less information when we come back into a visit. And so it's very important for me to remove any barriers where you feel like you can't tell me something that's wild. I need to be that space where you're like, yo, I couldn't wait for this appointment. Like, my patients talk to me very openly. And so sometimes they don't even want it. It's like, girl, I got some tea. I can't wait till we get in touch. Like, you're not going to believe. Or, I handled this really well. I want you to be proud. Or it could just be pictures at a family event of their pets. You know, you become a part of their life. And so the more comfortable your patients feel, the more apt they are not to only do well and get better, but they're also going to spread that word to their community, because they're going to want to see their people around them get better as well, right? So that's why I say healing is contagious, and it really can reverse trauma.
Yeah, no, and I love that you say that, because that goes back to how it was for me, right? Like, coming out of a relationship, how to find myself again, reading books and all these things. I learned so much in that. I was like, there's no way that I'm going to keep this to myself. And that's what made me make a podcast and, you know, make a communication card game. And
there you go.
I never would have thought of that in 5 years ago. Oh, yeah, you're going to make a card game and make a podcast. I was like, what? That sounds crazy.
Correct.
You're lying. You're lying.
It's your journey.
Yeah, so I think when you're able to be mindful on yourself, that's how you'll be able to attract those things, right? Going back to energy now, right? If you want to be able to have a successful, fulfilling life, you have to fulfill yourself first. Life is a mirror, right? And I think that's the biggest thing. People are keep pointing fingers and keep asking for things, but you have to first ask yourself rather than asking for outside things.
Correct. And, you know, your vision is your vision. I can't tell you how many times I took a role or did something and my peers felt like I was foolish. I wasn't advocating for more money. They would never do X, Y, and Z for X, Y, and Z, but we didn't share the same vision, because while they think I was doing it for $1, absolutely not. I was doing it because I know once I have this experience, nobody can take it back from me. So while everyone else was being a lion and having that level of aggression on the ground, my job was to be the giraffe. I had a vision that was different. I can see above all of that. So my game was very long. My field was much longer than what was happening right in front of people. And so protect your energy, protect your vision. It's your vision. It's yours for a reason. Other people are not meant to see it and feel it the way you feel it. And that's what I say again, check your circle. Because if your circle is not feeding into your dreams, are they really good for your nervous system?
Right. That's what gets you anxious. That's what gets you depressed.
Are they really healthy for you?
Yeah. They're not. And I, you know, in my personal experience, you know, there's been people in my life that left, right? And then there's people that have came on. And one thing I go and say is that I only want to be around people that love me, respect me, and accept me for who I am and who I'm trying to be.
Correct.
You know, because that's really what it's about.
Correct.
And I think what happens is that when people are getting anxious and depressed is a lot of times because they're feeling like they're not enough.
Right. And they're not recognizing that, you know, we use the term haters. Haters are everywhere, right? But people don't understand that's actually an analogy, right? It's having anger towards everyone reaching success. That's what haters mean. And so people are going to be angry when you're reaching success. Let them. They got two choices. They can be angry, or they can start asking, or they can be curious. You can be angry, or you can be curious.
I would like to have you explain more to everyone that's listening. What has success looked like for you, and how did you manage with the people like coming in and out of your life? Like, what is something that you told yourself? What is something that you kept doing to at least not focus on what you're losing, but more what you're gaining?
Yeah, I think my lessons came pretty early in life. You know what I mean? Even being like when I was in the streets, I was popular. Everybody loved me. You know what I mean? My house was the spot until I caught that federal case. Then I didn't have friends anymore. People steered way, way clear of me. So I think you learn very early about who really values you and how rich it is to just have a small group of people that love you, truly love you, is way better than having a bunch of people always around you. So I take pride in having a small circle. People don't see me anywhere because I will protect my energy at all costs. That is priceless for me, right? But that also takes a lot of work with being okay. It also takes a lot of vision. So for me, freedom is everything. And when I say freedom, it's financial freedom, it's emotional freedom, it's the ability to live and speak and move and do without persecution. And so for me, there will be no rest until there's some equality. And being a Black woman, I don't have the luxury of the comfort of relaxing, right? There's too much work to be done. Now, I'm not saying I don't take off my cape and make it my security blanket, because sometimes I got to wrap myself up and love up on myself a little bit more to do the work, but there will never be a comfort level for me until there's actual true equality. And I think being raised, I say this and I'll say it until my last day, being raised Muslim in that community where you are so highly valued, from education to you as a human to being just as a woman. I think a lot of people look at it as control for women in a Muslim community, where they're so wrong. You are so highly regarded and valued that you are not meant for the rest of the world to have full access to. You got to be some kind of special to sit at that table and be in that circle, right? And I think those roots have let me know that, yeah, we are kings and queens. I'm never going to hesitate about the way I feel about myself and my people. I don't care what behavior they're displaying. They might not know they're kings and queens, but they are royalty. And until the rest of the world sees that royalty and treats us accordingly, we have work to do. So for me, I have peace. Like right now, I work independently. So I have my own practice. I don't have to worry about doing something on this podcast today that is dear to me and then have to worry about being fired tomorrow. Okay? So I tell people, even if you work for somebody else, create something that's your own. No matter what. Even if it's something to generate money, but have something on your own that is near and dear to you, because that's what's really going to bring you through. We're all going to have work that we have to do. We're all going to have things that are not going to be pleasurable. But for me, the ultimate freedom has been A, having my own practice, B, being able to treat people the way I feel like they deserve to be treated, with high quality standard care. You're not just a number, right? And then being able to spread the word about healing to others and the importance of raising our voices, raising ourselves up, living to a higher standard, and understanding your value and your worth, because I feel like we have to set a better example. People are watching, right? Your children might, not your children, you don't got children, but their children, my children, other people's children. And so I need to always be the example that I want other people to see. So yeah, I'm going to be all of Khadija all the time in all of my comfort. I'm not changing my flavor for nobody, right? Because this is who I am.
Yes.
But at the same time, this is what gravitates people to me, because they know that they can be who they are without judgment. Right. And that's kind of what we need.
Yeah. The honesty is everything, right?
Yeah.
When you're honest with yourself, like, you know what, I'm not feeling right. And I know we scheduled this, but let's reschedule, because I'm just not all there. Right. And I know this, I want to make sure that I give you my full attention, the full energy that needs to, do whatever it is. Right. And I think that's the hard part, right? I think the hard part is to try to balance and do the things that, mean a lot to you.
Right.
Because, you got work, and then you got family, then you got friends. And then if you have a significant other, you have significant other. And then you got you time.
Correct.
And sometimes you time takes a lot longer than all the other times you have with people, right? Because it comes with figuring it out. Like, to be transparent, the other day I was crying to myself. And did I know why I was crying? I did it.
Exactly right.
Yeah, and it was just to express it out, though. It was just to, you know what? I'm a little stressed out from the most minimalistic things, but I had to let it out.
Right.
And after I let it out, I was like, yeah, I needed that.
And the other part is, are you not aware of your triggers?
That's another thing. There's some things that I find out myself that I'd be like, yeah, this is what gets me angry.
Yeah.
So I've been finding out a lot of my triggers, especially like childhood trauma.
That's exactly right. So this is why when I say we take a walk back to the childhood. So if you even look at my logo, it's got the inner golden child.
Yes.
Because you're golden, baby. And we got to get down. So I still have conversations with my younger self. That's how I do my healing. So me and my little person, we talk all the time because I need to make sure, is this me now? Or is that her then? And so I got to go back and do a little self-check. And like, am I responding out of a trigger? Am I responding because it's bringing up an old feeling, that I haven't really adjusted to? Like, we're like onions. You heal one layer and another one is going to show. You heal one layer and another one pops up.
Yeah.
So like, it's an ongoing growth process, but it should be. Because you should never be the same person you were. Not even last year. You should be constantly shifting and growing and thinking differently. So it only makes sense that you should have a person throughout your lifetime. That's why I said no matter where you're at, have somebody older. Because the wisdom is going to always be unmatched. Okay? Have a peer. Because you need somebody who understands where you are. And have someone younger than you. Because they see things in a different light and they're coming through with new stuff that you have no idea even exists. And if you want to stay relevant, you're going to need that person too. So anybody who's successful keeps those three around at all times.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it just shows that we need each other.
100%.
Right? And I think when it comes to the word together, right, I'm all about bringing people together. You slow down this word, it says to get there.
Right.
And I think that's the whole point is we need to be able to come together and just understand we need each other. Obviously, respect me and look at me again as a human being. That, this is where I'm at and meet me where I'm at.
Right.
But don't judge me. Yeah, maybe some of the things is wrong, but I'm working on it. And it's taking me some time and I'm trying to figure it out. And, it's hard though. And I think that's what you have to be okay about. That it's hard.
Right. And I think that's the other part. If you're recognizing that you're having more days that are hard than not, right? If you're recognizing that you're pushing people away because you just can't handle your own emotional regulation. If you're realizing that, you're waking up feeling frustrated and then you're going to bed just grateful that you survived the day, but waking up again saying, I got to just do this all over again. We need to be talking, right? If you're not feeling joy, if you're not feeling content, if you're not feeling the ebbs and flows in life in a healthy way, we need to talk, right? If people are telling you what's wrong with you all the time and you're rejecting that, we need to talk. Right? Because something is disconnecting. So I tell people, if any time in your life you're like, something's not right, I don't feel good, my limit is 2 weeks. 2 weeks, and according to the DSM, all right, 2 weeks for most things. If you are experiencing that long, you need to see somebody because that's a problem. And most of us have gone years feeling uncomfortable in our own bodies and our own skin, thinking that this is just the way it's supposed to be.
Yep, and then we do instant gratification and smoking and drinking and having sex with people that we don't really want to do.
Healing.
Yeah, and that's not healing. That's only detrimental.
Except for healing.
Yep.
And those things, and this is why I tell people, I ask these questions now because I'm taking care of you now and 20 years from now. So no, I don't want you gaining weight because then I'm going to have to deal with that in 20 years. And that's a whole nother problem, right? Because I'm not trying to deal with heart issues. So this is preventative care. We do this work now so that you're healthier 20 years from now, so that your brain functions better, so that you have more skills, so that you have some healthy coping strategies, so that you're not going to just alcohol and substances and partners and things that are not healing your soul. Like, check your nervous system. Like, if your nervous system does not feel good, that gut is not lying to you.
Right.
You might push it away up here, but it's going to keep coming back. And if you're having those internal conversations, come see me. Come see me.
Yeah, guys, if you are listening, if you are experiencing absolutely anything, you gotta go see Dr. Khadija, because she's well known for everything that has to do with anxiety, depression, and mind you, you don't have to take medication,
Correct.
right? She's not gonna make you, she's not gonna force you. She's gonna only get the chance to get to know you. And if for any reason, if you feel like you need medication, then she will be the professional to say so and recommend it to you. She's not going to be like, oh, this is like what she said. She's not going to be like, oh, this is what I think you should take. No, she's going to be, hey, this is what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And she's going to make you do the homework, right? If you care about your mental health, it takes the work for it, right? Things are not easy. Life is not easy. But the only way we make it easier is if we could come together, talk about it, be vulnerable about it.
And you're going to be invested. I'm going to make sure you're invested in your care, because nobody's going to work harder for your health than you. And so we need to tap into the reasons why. Again, why you came here for a reason. So we need to tap into that so that you can be your best self, right? And if you have other people around you, it's a domino effect. So if you get better in your home, then everybody who's around you is also going to feel better as well. Heals the whole family.
Yes. I think one of the things is that when it comes to healing, we don't know how to go with that, right? I think it's one of those things where, like, we keep being cognizant of the things that are detrimental to us, right? It comes to these triggers, and then it comes to the fact that we can't let go.
Correct.
Right? And what happens is that when it comes to change, that's when we first have to accept it. Right? We ask for it all the time, but we don't know how to accept that change. And change is something that hurts as well.
Right.
And we sometimes confuse change with not being enough, right? When sometimes change is being enough.
Right.
And being able to have someone like yourself to talk about that and see really what's going on is what's important. I definitely want to go into asking you, what do you think about the society that we live in now, where technology and the fast-paced life is kind of like consuming us? Do you think anxiety and depression is also coming from social media?
I think it definitely plays a big part, because so it's twofold, right? I have to remind my older generation that there has always been something that people have been consumed with. So if you pulled out, go back to the 50s, you're going to see people on public transportation, and everybody's in a book or a newspaper. The people aren't talking to each other. They're minding their business, and they're buried in some sort of gossip, news, whatever, book type thing. So I think that our brains have always been seekers of information, right? That's just how we're wired. But I think we are getting a much faster flood of information, and I think it could be a plus and a minus. It's benefits, to everything and negative to everything. And so social media is not always reality based. So people put on there what they want you to see, right? If you don't have the gift of discernment and you don't know reality from what's not reality, these things can create a lot of insecurities, right? Because there's this push for perfection, and there's absolutely no such thing. Which is why you see filters out the wall. I can't even recognize people on the street anymore because everybody's filtered. I just, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, do I think it plays a part? Absolutely. But I also think information and communication has also always played a part. And now it's just faster, more accessible. So we have to be better stewards of teaching about technology.
Right.
And I think we really have done a disservice, because there is so much false information with no accountability. Right? What are facts anymore if you can put anything on the internet because it's how you feel or what you think, and it's not based on any facts? So I think that as professionals, as educators, as parents, as leaders, we need to start teaching people how to decipher information, because we've also gotten into a place where, like, the whole world's going to have ADHD because everything's in a snippet. And so if you look at a snippet and you just take that bit of information as fact, we're already in trouble. So we need more accountability, right? Again, like I was always told, it's the television. It's the television. And so it's the technology. We need more accountability, but it's here already. And so if you have children, you have people, teach them the challenge, what they're seeing. Look for the opposite answer to see if it matches up, because the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. And technology is meant to pull at your emotional brain. not necessarily your logical brain. And so it's going to trigger and invoke a very strong emotion before you can rationalize. So I think we need to be very aware. We need to be limiting some of the social media use because we're forgetting about actual interactions. I have to tell people, when I tell a story about my childhood, I can go into detail because I can remember the sun feeling on my face. I can remember the smell from the fish market. I can hear the kids playing in the background. So I had a lot more sensory integration into a memory. Mm-hmm. Now people are communicating only by technology. So our senses are not being utilized the way they should be when it comes to communication, right? We're missing so many cues, even the energy fields that pass between people when they're communicating face to face, right? You don't pick up on that. And so, although it's there, I think we need to be fostering a lot more personal and interpersonal communication styles. You know, I think it's going to be critical. For humans need humans, and we need real human touch and real human connection. Right? We are not bots. Right? And we can't start acting like and performing like there is a very important part of us, which is compassion and human understanding that can't be replaced. And so I think we need to be collective in ensuring that we spend time with real people, and making sure that we are having actual communities available for people.
Yeah. And I think that's even going back to how we mentioned, like, of course, being mindful of the people that you're around, of course, right? But then you have to first figure out what it is out like there. Because when it came to networking for me, it wasn't like I went out and I automatically found my people. No, it's sometimes the people that are your people are not the ones that at your hometown. Sometimes you have to go to Boston or New York or whatever because we're over here in Springfield, right? And that you have to be willing to do that. And
but this is why technology is good.
Right.
This is where it's a strength. Because you can find your community. Okay? You can actually find your community, and it doesn't have to be close to where you're in proximity to. Right? So it's a double-edged sword. It really is a double-edged sword. I think we would do a lot more justice with just finding a way to make sure that everyone isn't just allowed to put anything on the internet, which is why we need to be putting a lot of money behind education, behind teachers, professors, educators all together, because the dumbing down of society is doing no one any good, right? And we need to be putting money behind the people that are actually trying to help and educate. That's why we don't need to be banning books. We don't need to be dumbing down. Oh, and speaking of books, please buy them.
Yes.
I'm just going to put this plug in right now. Things are shifting, and they're shifting rapidly. So as much as you love technology, anything can be removed at the flip of a button. So I strongly encourage people to buy hardback books, okay? And get comfortable with writing. Write your stories, write your stuff. If you don't want your kids to know what you're saying, write it in cursive. They won't be able to read it. It's like hieroglyphics to this generation, okay? But get your words and get your stories on paper and make sure it lives somewhere that can be passed down. As our people know, the reason why we've survived is because of storytelling and passing our stories down from generation to generation.
It's true.
So write your stories, buy your books, pass them along, because we don't want technology erasing what we know to be true as well. Okay?
Yes.
Double-edged sword. So we all have to do our part. So to my writers, I am depending on you. Come see me if anybody is a real writer, because I got a story to tell, but I'm not a writer. But outside of that, like seriously, teachers, educators, we need to be supporting them. There needs to be some major, major shifts in funding, because as far as I'm concerned, they should be making doctor money. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for some of the great educators that I had. So why aren't we paying them?
Yeah, I know. I think that's one of the things that I find interesting is that, you know, the only reason why there's so many successful people is because of the people that educated them, right?
100%.
And I think, you know, even going back to, you know, communication, I think what it is that people are not willing to communicate. People are not willing to ask questions. And that kind of just goes back to the card game where, like, the reason why I made it was to at least start with personal, right? Like, ask the right questions, which I know we were going to break the ice with it.
We did
but we gonna end with it because we gonna end with it. I was so excited to start the episode. So I was like, oh, let's get right into it.
We're going to get into it.
Yeah, exactly.
When you see me,
if you guys don't know,
we get into it.
Yeah, we get into it.
With Dr. Tuit.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So yeah, I think communication is one of the biggest things, and I think if it was for me to know how to ask the right questions and know how to communicate, especially when the stakes were high, I think maybe my relationships would have been better with a significant other, with my friends, with myself, because communication comes with being honest, and honesty is what portrays confidence, because you're able to, say whatever you say unapologetically, right?
Yeah.
To be able to do it with respect, of course, right? Because sometimes people could get misconstrued with that fact. And the thing is that you still want to treat people with unconditional positive regard.
Absolutely.
Like, treat them still as a human being.
Absolutely.
They might not know everything, and that's okay. Just meet them where they're at. And you don't have to put so much expectation on someone, because then you only hinder yourself.
Correct.
So, as a matter of fact, talk about it. Let's end.
Pull a card. Okay.
We gonna
pull a card. Let's see.
We're gonna put a card real quick. So, guys, again, if you haven't got your Enough Said communication card game, you gotta do so. I had plenty of people say that they played it with their significant other, been together for 14 years, and they say, "Oh my God, I never knew this about my husband, my wife. Oh, I learned this about my kids. It's surprising we started a conversation." I'm surprised. So it just shows that communication is something that is what allows us to connect. Without it, we wouldn't, right? And when you ask the right questions, you can find the right people.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to shuffle it real quick. It was already shuffled. And then I'm going to... This is a thing, right? For the next batch, there's a thing I call it destiny, even though it's just me and you, but this is your destiny to pick a card.
Okay. I'm going to take my destiny. Let's see. I'm going to split my life in the middle. Okay.
What does it say?
Ooh. What is your ideal group outing or gathering activity?
Okay.
I'm going to tell you straight up. For me, anything that's conversation about building a community, building a village, helping people heal, like whatever is in that realm feeds my spirit, okay? So I love healing. I love talking about us. I love normalizing disparities so that we can break them. And so my ideal community would be a gathering of healers, a gathering of people with a shared vision and understanding that the goal is not money, the goal is prosperity, and the goal is to ensure that our legacies are taken care of for generations to come. And so my gathering would include those educators, those healers, those teachers, all of these, people with the shared vision of creating a better world.
Yeah. I love that. That was awesome.
That's
Enough said. I think even for myself, I can resonate. I only want to be around people that are, working on themselves, right? Yeah. And then we could be all open about it, right? Can I tell you I had a bad day? You know what I mean? And being around people that are more mindful on, like, how can we grow as individuals rather than talking about how other people aren't growing, right? I don't want to be around that. So I'd rather be around someone that I could sit down and just hang out with someone who's just sitting and talking, drinking coffee. I love coffee. It doesn't have to be anything, exotic. It doesn't have to be anything big. But if I could just at least talk to you, that's enough for me.
Right.
So yeah.
And shout out to my artists. Let me just say that
Go
because
ahead.
You guys are also the ones that help create without the verbiage, right? And you speak volumes by your art, by what you create. So also those are also the people that I would want there, because we will not have anything without the people that create art. They are the visionaries, okay?
It's
so
true.
I want to plug them too, because they, my first therapist was music. Music put into words what I couldn't express for myself.
That's true.
So that was my first therapist. So shout out to all the creators and the artists, because you give another form of expression to the world.
Yeah. Shout out to Big Sean. That's my favorite artist.
See?
I love Big Sean.
Look at you even wearing it on your sleeve.
So, right.
It's an expression.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, everything on this as well is symbolizing strength. Like the eagle, the gladiator, slaying the dragon. And then there's a guy holding the world on his back, because I just feel like it's holding everything, and the world is on my shoulders. Yeah. And then just a whole bunch of other things. I think the time clock right here I just got was just, time is everything, but time is also past me.
Expression.
And I just got to.
That's my point. Yep. See?
Yep.
Art.
Yes. Enough said. Everybody, Dr. Khadija Tuit. We got into it, right? I hope you guys really got something from this episode. I've learned a lot about, anxiety, what is anxiety, depression, and just understanding that there's a balance to it, right? You had to first ask yourself the right questions and what is triggering you, right? And if you can't do that by yourself, then, go see Dr. Khadija. I'll make sure that I'll leave all the information down below so that you can book with her if so. But it was definitely an honor for you to come on. I think there's going to be plenty more, and then also see you for the New Year Better Us event.
Yes,
so I'm excited for that.
that.
Yeah, if you guys don't know about that, it's New Year Better Us.
Something.
It's really a big networking event where everybody just gets together and just start the new year with Better Us.
Better us.
Better me than you, Big Sean.
Yeah. Networking, community.
Yes. So until next time, you guys be easy. Peace.